So we'll start by settling the body, adopting a stable, comfortable, upright position, serviceable for meditation. So we think about keeping our feet flat and our back straight, torso open, hands in the lap right over left with the palms upturned and the thumbs gently touching. Our eyes are gently closed or slightly open, making sure we let in enough light to remain alert. We try to maintain an awareness of not slouching, not leaning, but we also let go of any unnecessary tension or rigidity in the body, relaxing into a stable, comfortable, upright position. And then we begin to let go of attending to our environment, allowing sights and sounds to be as they are without investigation, constraining our awareness just to the body and mind. Concentrating that awareness in the present by attending closely to the physical sensation of the air moving into and back out of the tip of the nostrils. Noticing quickly when anything other than that one physical sensation is arising in the mind, and without judgment or frustration, lifting your awareness up from those distractions and placing it gently but firmly again and again on the breath. And then we generate a broad, altruistic motivation, intentionally widening our circle of concern, embracing as many sentient beings as we can, and thinking that the purpose of our time is to cultivate to deepen our familiarity with constructive, beneficial states of mind, those that naturally and spontaneously give rise to actions that are beneficial for others, and to reduce the influence of states of mind that are not beneficial or constructive. Those that, when they arise, give rise to actions that cause harm to others. Thinking of this process of genuine inner transformation as the way in which we can be of benefit to sentient beings. And then with that motivation, we contemplate one of the obstacles to fulfilling that motivation fully, our tendency to be willing to work for the benefit of those that we think of as friends and loved ones. Our hesitancy to work for the benefit of those that we think of as strangers, and our opposition to working for the benefit of those that we think of as enemies. So we begin by perhaps visualizing ourselves in an open space, and visualize three people seated in front, facing us. On our right is our dear friend. Directly in front is someone that we would label as a difficult person, someone for whom we might have some negative feelings toward. And then on the left is someone that we saw within the last couple of days, maybe outside or in a store, but don't have any strong thoughts of. Someone that we would say is a stranger. And we try to retain an awareness of the presence of these three people throughout the meditation. But we begin by turning our attention to our friend. ask ourselves why there's a feeling of closeness, a willingness to undergo hardship for their benefit. So we think back over knowing this person. We try to recognize that those feelings arise due to a history of that person engaging in actions that we found beneficial, that we find it pleasant and enjoyable when they say or do the majority of the things that they typically say and do. Think back over that time and see if that's valid. And then move your attention to the difficult person. And again, check why feelings of distance, feelings of aversion, and in general unwillingness to act in ways that might inconvenience oneself for the benefit of the other arise in the mind naturally? Is it because this person has engaged in actions that were at odds with just one's own interests, one's own desires, one's own preferences? See the ways in which the ego might be involved in these thoughts and feelings. And then move your awareness to the stranger and notice the arising of a sense of indifference, disinterest, and kind of disengagement. And is that because there is no history personally in this life with this person? There are no actions that have harmed oneself or benefited oneself. And is that a valid reason for holding that disinterest, being somewhat reticent to work for their benefit, particularly if it was difficult, inconvenient? See if that is, in your own experience, the origin of those thoughts and feelings. And then begin to contemplate that although these relationships seem to be solid, we have many examples from our own lives of how changeable these labels actually are. There are many people from our past who we were once close to, who we would now think of as strangers. There are likely even some that began to act in ways that we disliked, and that caused tension, perhaps feelings of ill will. And before anyone can become a dear friend, they were strangers. And we even can think of examples of times when we initially judged someone harshly. I felt like we could never be friends with them. And then we ended up realizing that we were mistaken. Or times when someone apologized and began to be more supportive, and our thoughts, our attitudes changed. We can see that in all of those examples, only that person's actions toward oneself changed over time. We can see how capricious these labels are. All of the beings that are given this label are ordinary, suffering, sentient beings, and purely in dependence on how they speak to us, what they do or don't do for us. We may feel warmly or coldly. We may be open to benefiting them or closed to the idea. Whereas if we could relate to all sentient beings simply as suffering sentient beings, all with the same potential to achieve full enlightenment, then we would be willing to work equally for the benefit of every sentient being. So bring to mind examples of these friends, enemies, and strangers, and try to see past that surface labeled as a surface level designation or label, and think, what would it be like to regard them just as a suffering sentient being with the potential for enlightenment? and trying to give rise to a strong determination to use that lens in regarding all sentient beings rather than the lens of ego, which gives rise to friend, enemy, and stranger. And rest your mind in that sense of determination, resolve. And then when you're ready, we'll come back together. And we'll dedicate. So recollect your altruistic motivation. Think that by having engaged in this contemplation, you've actualized that motivation, which has generated positive energy in the mind. And think that you freely offer the fruit of your practice, that positive energy for the benefit of all sentient beings without exception. Thinking when it ripens, may it serve as a cause and condition to eliminate war and conflict, poverty, famine, disease, disasters, all painful inner and outer conditions. May it fully ripen the minds of all sentient beings. May they quickly meet perfect teachers and arise in a state of full enlightenment. May I too achieve the state of enlightenment in order to work for the benefit of sentient beings perfectly. May any obstacles facing the Guru's long life be completely dissolved, and may I and all sentient beings in this moment come under the joyful care and guidance of enlightened beings. May we be guided and protected until we swiftly achieve that state of enlightenment. Thank you.